Here on If You Don't Like That. Sean Salisbury to talk about the big news in the National Football League, the NBA. Ryan in Sacktown to talk about De'Aaron Fox and the injury report of a fractured tip of his index finger on his shooting hand. We got a busy show, and it comes up for you in just a moment. Well, we're going to start off talking about NFL football. Sean, it's great to have you on. Let's get right to it. Let's not mess around. You figure with the NFL draft just around the corner that Aaron Rodgers, the deal would get done. Your thoughts on what the Jets gave up to acquire Rodgers?
Yeah, I figured, Grant, that this could not be a draft day or post-draft day deal because, if you're the Jets, you've got to start making decisions on your team, even though the Packers have their quarterback. I think it's a good deal, and I like the fact that on picks in the future they put the contingency, meaning if the guys, if he plays 65% of the snaps as they move forward, which means hopefully Rodgers obviously plays longer than just a year. So I just hope for the Jets they don't have to go through what the Packers have gone through, where next year Aaron's going through it again year to year. Give him 2 to 3 years. If they get the full this contract out of him, I think it makes the deal worthwhile. The Packers obviously wanted to move on. The Jets need him, and it instantly makes them a big-time threat because he's a great player. So I think it's fair. You exchange picks, and you get a Hall of Fame quarterback, the best quarterback in Jets history. It just is. Namath is that's Joe Namath. When it comes to just the best, this guy's it, and I think we have a pretty good idea why. He's a special player. We'll see if he can get him to another level.
All right, so you have Allen in Buffalo, assuming that Tua can stay on the field and healthy. You got that high-powered offense. What do you think Rodgers will do for the Jets? Are they a playoff team?
I think when all said the heck, they were pushing that for a while last year, Grant. You know that, and they just didn't have the offensive weapons and the quarterback for the most part to get them over the top. I do think you start to look at the gauntlet you got to go through in the AFC, which we've discussed, not just quarterbacks, but teams. It is going to be, and assuming that Lamar Jackson goes back to Baltimore, Baltimore and Cincinnati, Cleveland should be better with Deshaun Watson. We know about, Mac, even the New England Patriots should be better now that they got an offensive guy running their offense as opposed to a linebacker coach in Matt Patricia. So, and then we know about the Kansas Cities and the Chargers and the Bengals and all those great teams. So for me, Grant, yeah, I do. I think they're going to be hanging around all the way through the season with a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think Buffalo's still the best team. Miami close, depending on what Buffalo does at running back moving forward and Tua's health. But, while Allen may be the current best quarterback in the division, the second one resides in in New York now. So I think it does. I think it also, Grant, game planning. When you've played the Jets, you didn't really have to game plan. No disrespect to Joe Flacco or Zach Wilson. You were not game planning for them because Joe can't move at this point of his career. Yep. And Zach, trying to throw it, he's had a hard time throwing it to the right guy and trying to throw it accurately. Now you've got a guy who becomes, if you decide to press and see all this stuff and pressure, he'll kill you throwing the football and beating blitz, and they will be efficient enough running the football as well. I think this is a great game plan-wise or not. Aaron Rodgers is a tremendous upgrade for the Jets and makes them a playoff threat immediately.
All right, you're in Houston. Assuming that Carolina takes Bryce Young 1, what do you think the Texans are doing after that?
I think they should take a quarterback, but I think there's a groundswell and a growing I don't even know if it's concern or thought that you go Will Anderson, possibly a receiver at 12 if you don't move up for something else, or a great corner since you have the edge rusher, and then you get like Jackson Smith-Njigba. And then do everything you can to move into the first round with that second pick of the second round. And they've got 2/3, they've got a couple 6s, and try to get back in the first round to get the quarterback. Grant, I'm not so sure if I wouldn't go this way. If, in fact, you decide you're passing on a quarterback at second, take Will Anderson with the second pick. He's the overall best defensive player in this draft. And then at 12, even if you traded down 2 slots, but 12, why not draft Hendon Hooker?
Huh?
Why not take him and then go get the receiver later if you can move into late in the first round, or stay where you are early in the second round, if in fact Hooker's a guy on your radar. But I'll tell you this, Grant, if it's not for an injury that you can overcome, and you can, ACL, I've had shredded mine a couple times, and it's a lot different. That's a 9-month injury. It's no longer a 16-month injury.
Yep.
If you loved him before the knee injury,
Yep.
I wouldn't check out and not loving him. I don't think that's going to have any effect on how successful. As a matter of fact, the muscle around the knee will end up being stronger because he'll be dedicated to training that specific part of his body. If you loved him before he got hurt in week 13 or game 13, why would you take the risk of losing him? I actually think now we're looking at 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round.
Interesting.
And I think the Texans may not go for the one at 2, even though I think most of us think C.J. Stroud could be there. If they thought that they could get the guy at 12 or somewhere else in his first round, I think they'd load up on receiver, edge rusher, and quarterback, and that would be a complete A for them in the first round.
All right, maybe you can educate the fans based on your expertise of playing quarterback in college, in the NFL, and having multiple camps and working even to this day with young upcoming quarterbacks. What are the attributes that you personally look for, and why do so many teams make mistakes? We have the Jets with Darnold, we have Wilson, we have Cleveland with Mayfield, or is the fit going a little bit lower in the draft more advantageous for a quarterback like a Brock Purdy, for instance, and he now has a really good team and he excels. So give us the whole big picture, Sean. What do you look for?
And to backtrack, I'm one that I would take a quarterback 2 with the Texans. That's just me. If you love him, not like him, Grant,
Sure.
I always say this. If you love the guy, don't matter what the rest of us think, you draft that franchise quarterback as high as you can if you love him.
That's
if
right.
you like him, you'd be making a major mistake to draft him that high. You marry the woman you love. You don't marry somebody you like them. And this is the same with this, because your franchise and your career may hinge on it as a coach or a GM. I'll tell you attributes I look for. Listen, all the obvious. Do I like strong arm? Of course I do. Is it my number one trait? Absolutely not. It fits 5, 6, 7 down there. For me, for me, and the reason why, Grant, is it's so hard to judge is because the games are different a little bit. I know it's 100 yards long and 53 yards or wide, whatever it is. But the pressure, you really don't know how a guy's going to respond to Sunday pressure when they're getting paid in the last couple minutes of a game, under when they're everybody at your own home team's booing you because you threw 2 picks. That's why you don't. I can look at a guy and say, man, he can rip it, but under duress, processing information, how does the guy perform? And so we don't know. I could tell you how. Listen, if you wanted me to tell you how good Will Anderson's going to be, I think Will Anderson is going to be a secure, safe pick that lasts 10 or 12 years in the league, because you know what? At worst, you can say, go get the quarterback, and then on 3rd and 1, defend the run. I'm not saying that they're not smart all over the league. They are, but there's so much more that comes into it. 11 guys trying to defend you. You got to throw to a moving target on time with accuracy. So for me, going into it, if the guy has this one, do you maximize the building? Do you elevate the guy next to you? Meaning, if you got a 6 out of 10 as a guard, can you make him a 7? And I know people say, well, that's his job. Well, it is, but my job's to elevate and put him in position as a quarterback to be better. Do you process information urgently? Do you throw on time? And do you throw it accurately? If you give me those, I got a place to start. And then, like anything, Grant, how do you handle when it's nut cutting time and the dog has peed on your foot? The girlfriend wants to date the other team's quarterback. Your coach isn't talking to you. Do you know how to overcome that when you've had a shitty-ass first half and find a way to get it done in the second half? I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic, but in truth, that's who Brady is. That's who these great players have been in their career. Those are the traits. Since, strong arm, can you escape the pocket? Those are all things. But if you can't throw on time, processing information accurately, you'll make some wow plays, but you won't make all the other plays you need. Grant, let me just say this. It is not the ordinary play, or the extraordinary play, excuse me. It's not the extraordinary play that you make all the time. It's the ordinary play you make all the time. And you do it better than everybody else. Extraordinary happens in your natural ability. They'll all make extraordinary plays, some more than others. But I can tell you this, if you make the ordinary play all the time, you will have a chance to sustain greatness. Those are my traits. And no, I saw a question. I'm not worried about Bryce Young size. I wasn't worried about in college. And if that's the only reason I don't draft him, then I think a team's a dumbass. He's got every other trait lined up, but he 5'10 and a half, 204. Well, until he proves to me he can't play, he's worth the risk. And if Carolina doesn't draft him first, I personally think they didn't get the best quarterback from production from college to now. 5 years from now, Richardson may be the best. I know now coming out, the best quarterback today is Bryce Young.
Yeah. First of all, if you're the number one pick in the NFL draft, and I got the wrong one here. If you're the number one pick in the NFL draft and you're on your third team and you're still not a starting quarterback, I label that as a bust. I'm sorry. Now, does that mean he can't resurrect his career? No, it doesn't. Does that mean that he can't again be a starting quarterback in the NFL? No, it doesn't. But I'm only going by what I have, the data in front of me. Cleveland would have not taken him number one if they could do it all over again. And he's now going to be on his fourth team this year. Right. So in my definition, that's a bust. But that's
Grant, it goes back real quick to ifs too. I can't pick the first pick of the draft if there's more ifs than not. Right? Like, well, if the guy, you know what I'm saying? With my quarter, I'm just focusing on that guy. There can be a few ifs on my defensive tackle. I can't have very many ifs on a guy I'm drafting first because a defensive tackle is not setting my franchise back 5 years or a decade. The wrong quarterback can, and all the things that go into it. So, yes, by definition, a bust, right, Grant? Because if you're the first pick of the draft, we're not expecting you to start for a decade. We're expecting you to play Pro Bowl football, and at the end of 12 years, be prepared to be a Hall of Famer. That is what the first, second, or third pick of the draft, which we expect from our quarterback. Now, it's not feasible to say that happens to all of them, but I can tell you this. The quarterback has to be a guy who makes everybody in the building better, and if he doesn't as the first pick and they don't win, those guys will be considered a bust, even though Baker Mayfield has had some good moments. The unfortunate ability to sustain it when you've been on 3 or 4 teams in your first 5 years, most people don't consider. Jadeveon Clowney it would not be considered. If they had to do it over again, they wouldn't have taken him either with the first pick. Because why? Because he didn't have a Hall of Fame career to date. That's why.
All right. So John Lynch said today they aren't actively shopping Trey Lance at the moment, but that doesn't mean he's going to be on the 49ers. Gut feeling, you think he's going to get moved this weekend?
I would do everything I can to actively shop him, to listen to it. I think Darnold's got enough game to hold him over when Brock Purdy comes back. Listen, I think Trey Lance has great ability and potential. There's that other P word again, not production, potential. He looks the part. The problem is I can't keep him on the field. If somebody offers the 49ers a second-round pick for Trey Lance, they should trade him. Get the assets now. It's not what you paid for him. Today, I think they're going to try. The question is, what are they trying to get for him? I wouldn't trade him for a 5th-round pick because that's giving him away. But if you get the right offer, I'm willing to trade him away because I'm not sure he's the future. If he and Purdy are healthy right now, Brock Purdy has to play because he played better football. Yep. I don't know if Trey Lance is a guy that's going to be there when we're talking in 2029. That's just my
NBA,
opinion.
You being a former professional athlete, does it baffle you when you see what Dylan Brooks did, leading up to the game, and LeBron James, Draymond Green getting suspended for Game 3, again, for his antics. Then you see DeJounte Murray bumping the official after the game. He is now suspended for the next game. I see these things. I hear these things shown. I'm like, what the hell's going through these guys' minds?
I don't know. And here's what it is. I love competitiveness. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between competitive and being stupid.
Yeah.
Not IQ stupid decisions under duress. The same things that you would ask if you're coaching a team or your kid or your little league team or your teammates to do, you don't do. Listen, I understand that Brooks is he's an agitator and a good player. I understand these things, but you have to understand this is no longer game 15 on the grind of a season, just after where you're grinding in January. This is these guys, they need you on the court. And it's sometimes, while it's great to have a guy like that on your team, a Draymond Green who agitates others, but you can also hurt your team. Draymond Green's better to me when he's on the court than he is when he's doing this stuff and off the court. Listen, I get the competitive and emotion, but that's part of being a great player. Emotion to the point you can wear it all over your sleeve if you want, but you can't go overboard in playoffs where one game can make the difference in whether you're moving on. And this Sacramento Kings Golden State game and the other series, it's nut cutting time. I got to have those guys on the court. And sometime it reeks of, I'm more important than the team is. And that part I do not like.
What's grabbed you in these NBA playoffs? Any one series in particular that you're zeroing in on, that you're gravitating towards?
The Miami Heat situation
I agree.
is probably in the East for me, Grant. I love their fire, and they are well coached. I like their – and they play nasty a lot of times the right way. Does that make sense, Grant? You know that Jimmy Butler getting – as long as you can – I don't mind you towing the line, hell, and defending teammates and all that. But remember the big picture, and the big picture is not to get eliminated. In the West, I love this series at Sacramento and Golden State, and I absolutely do. And the ebbs and flows of missing a free throw, kicking one out of bounds, getting extra shots on the offensive glass. I'll tell you what, I'm actually intrigued with a lot of the series that are happening in the NBA postseason, which I love. Hence why those guys can't get eliminated and bump referees and do stupid stuff because you need them. But overall, the way the Heat and the Sacramento series, because I'm curious to see if Sacramento gets through this, can they sustain this run with the way they're playing? I can't wait to see it. We know stars will rear their head, but always, always, always in professional sports, somebody who's not supposed to will. Whoever that is Steve Kerr knocking down a shot, Jimmy Paxson, whatever, Craig Hodges, those days. One of those guys on these will end up making it. Look at the way Drew Holiday's held in regard. Now, defending you on one end, he can score on another when he's going right. I love the Miami series, and I love the Sacramento Golden State series, among others.
Sean, have a great week, buddy. Always good having you on.
You're the best, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, as always.
I appreciate you, too. Good stuff from Sean Salisbury. Hey, we want to tell you about New Works Plumbing of Sacramento. Locally owned for over 20 years, New Works has a fix for you. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. All right, Ryan in Sacktown, big news. De'Aaron Fox has a fractured finger on his shooting hand. It's the tip of his index finger. I'm going to make a prediction right now. After being around De'Aaron Fox every day for a couple of years, there's no way, in my opinion, he's not playing. He will play. I would be shocked if he doesn't play. Now, to what degree will that finger affect him? I don't know, but I would be not surprised. I would be shocked if he's not starting on Wednesday based on what I know about De'Aaron Fox. He's not worried about the pain. He's not worried about injuring it any further. If De'Aaron Fox can play, he's going to play. I think he's going to play. I'd be very surprised. I'd be shocked if he does not play. Ryan, how are you?
Doing great, Grant. And hope you're doing well too. I'm with you, man. This isn't a leg injury. This isn't a back injury. This is a finger injury. So even if De'Aaron is limited in what he can do on offense, if he is still on the court, he is a decoy for the Sacramento Kings. And he can make it through 48 minutes based off of his work before and playing through injuries. And, I would turn to what happened earlier in the season with Sabonis. Not the same injury, but also on his shooting hand, and he played through. So I'm with you. I think De'Aaron has to be on the court. He will be on the court. Just how effective can he be?
I would be very surprised. All right, so I'm blown away at the number of fans that are coming down hard on Mike Brown and Harrison Barnes after that final sequence. I don't get that. I really don't. If you have an open look from Harrison Barnes from three, you're going to live with that. And yet I go on social media, I look at my messages, and you would think that the Kings designed the worst play in the world. You had the ball in your best player's hand. You want the ball in De'Aaron Fox's hands. When he made his move, it was poked away by Curry. Okay, by then you don't have a lot of time left on the clock. Draymond comes out on him, and he throws the ball to Harrison Barnes. Yeah, I don't know what people are so upset about. I really don't.
Well, Grant, let's just put it this way. Had that shot gone in on the post-game show yesterday, everybody would be asking, when are we re-signing Harrison Barnes?
That's correct. We'd still be on the air. We'd still be doing our show.
Yeah, exactly right. Harrison Barnes has been great. And you know what, guys? You could not have asked for a better look at that point in the game when you're in a scramble like that. And you got to credit Golden State, too. They targeted who they were going to help off of. They weren't going to help off Monk. They decided it was going to be Barnes. Barnes had the look. He just missed it. I mean, that's what it is. And it is shocking, but it's been kind of that way all year, Grant, with the fans. If somebody has a bad game, then, let's trade him. Why didn't we do this? But Barnes is going to be just fine. This Kings team hopefully will be just fine.
Now, the issue with Fox is now everybody knows on the Warriors where his injury is. Yes. And so, they're going to be going after that as well. So, keep that in mind, assuming that he does play. And again, I believe he will play, and I believe he will start. I don't see De'Aaron Fox being kept off the floor. I really don't. And now all of a sudden, this is a best of 3.
Yep.
And let's face it, if the Kings do happen to lose on Wednesday night, this series probably isn't going 7. All right. If the Kings lose on Wednesday, they're probably going to lose this series in 6. Conversely, if they win on Wednesday, they're guaranteed to know that they are coming home for a game 7 if they lose Friday night. So, I mean, game 5s are always pivotal. Doesn't always mean you're going to win. The Kings won game 5 in 2002 against the Lakers on the Mike Bibby shot, and they ended up losing game 6 where they were just completely screwed by the officials and then missed 14 free throws in game 7 on their home floor. But percentages are when you win game 5, most of the teams go on and win the series.
Yeah, that's correct, Grant. And it's just a case of just even yesterday, give yourself a chance, right? And if the Kings can win tomorrow night, they give themselves that chance to be guaranteed that game 7 on their home court. Pressure's a little bit off. And you know what? You don't know what's going to happen with these two teams. Every game has been different for the most part this series. So, just give them a chance. Get composed, figure out what you're going to do with Fox. And going back to that real quick, he hit that 3 with the broken index finger. It happened late in the fourth quarter is what everybody is suspecting. So we'll see what happens, Grant, with that. And they got to have tomorrow night, though. It is a must win.
Wednesday night. Yep.
Wednesday, excuse me.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, they do. I mean, everyone knows that. And, you asked Jerry this on the postgame show yesterday, and I think it was a good question. Who's got the most pressure for game 5? And he said Sacramento. And I agree. It is Sacramento.
Well, it changes. Yeah, it changes everything. If you lose that game, as you laid out just a second ago, but conversely, you go back to a chance or a point where you have a chance where water can fall off your back if you lose game 6 because you're coming home.
All right. Assuming that Fox does play, again, we talk about assist to turnover ratio, right? And the Kings were very careless in the closing minutes of the game yesterday, turning the ball over.
The last 4 minutes of that game is what lost the Kings the game.
That's right.
There's no doubt about that. And they would be the first ones that tell you. Domas talked about that post game, and they have to be more careful with the possessions. They have to be more careful with the ball. And it doesn't just go for the end of the game. It has to be all 48 minutes. And, sometimes you can get lulled into playing that game the Warriors play, but the Kings aren't the Warriors. They can't make up for that in other ways. So if I'm Mike Brown, I am preaching protecting the leather right now.
You think Draymond Green's coming off the bench again on Wednesday?
I do. I absolutely do. He said that it was his idea. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's a better look for them. And they found a little bit of gold in a bad situation. So the Kings need to react and adjust to it.
Ryan and I are going to be down at 34 Mexican Cantina on O Street in downtown Sacramento Wednesday for our next watch party. So come on down and see us, 34 Mexican Cantina in downtown Sacramento on O Street. So, Fox, they said he's going to be listed as doubtful. That's what the Adrian Wojnarowski and Sham Charania, but unless he's listed out, he's going to play. I'm not worried about whether he's listed questionable or doubtful. Knowing the De'Aaron Fox that I've known and been around for a couple of years, De'Aaron Fox is going to be playing. Okay. I mean, I just cannot bring myself to think that Fox is not going to be on the floor. I know De'Aaron, he's going to play.
Grant, I personally don't think it's a matter of if he plays, it's how he's going to play.
Great
and
point.
That's going to be the challenge to the Kings coaching staff because he's going to have some type of protection on that index finger, which is definitely going to affect, his left hand is his strong hand. It's his shooting hand. It's going to affect how he shoots. So you're not going to have the same Fox. So what are you going to draw up to, be able to get other guys' looks off of, how dangerous he can be?
Yeah, Larry and I disagreed on that, and I get it. I mean, but, he and I did disagree on that. I respect his opinion. I respect, a difference of opinion. I just did not agree with that. All right, so do you expect the Kings to make any changes to the starting lineup? And no, I don't think they're going to start Monk. I don't think Mike Brown's worried about his starting lineup. He's going to start the same lineup and go with the same rotation for the most part. I don't have a problem with that.
No, I don't see why you would make any changes to the starting lineup. But now, I mean, we can have that conversation if Fox is not playing, but I'm not going to play what ifs when we're still 48 hours from tip.
Yeah. All right, buddy. I got to wrap this up because I got to move to a different location to do my 4:00 Listen App show. I'm looking forward to Wednesday. And again, for those of you that want to continue this conversation in 30 minutes, I'll be on Listen App. Appreciate you, buddy.
You got it, Grant. Talk to you soon.
Good stuff right there. My thanks to Sean Salisbury. And don't forget the watch party on Wednesday. And Ryan and I will be doing half. And post game, we got Jerry Reynolds coming up on Wednesday as well. Make it a good rest of the day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.